In this section, our objective is to be able to solve literal equations or formulas for a given variable. Literal equation means an equation in which variables represent known values. I like to think of it as there are many letters. Literal sounds like letters. So when I think of literal, I think of letters. Literal, letters. Examples. Solve each equation for the stated variable. Remember, solve, when we solved an equation before, what that meant was we were supposed to get x equals a number. Get the x by itself. Well, now we have more than just one variable, we have many variables. So x doesn't equal a number at the end, but x or whatever the variable is will still be by itself. So we still want to think of this as get the variable alone, or get the variable by itself. So it might be x equals, or it might be y equals, or it might be a equals. Any variable, we get it alone. We also want to think of this solve as rewrite. Let's start with number 1, solve for y. We notice they're asking for y, so I'm going to go find the y. That's the one that I want to get alone. So in the end, my answer will say y equals something. Now, because we're solving, we still want to think of PEMDAS. Let's write it on our paper, where we start with add and subtract, and we work our way up. The 4 is multiplied to the y. That's not adding or subtracting. So we want to deal with the other term that is subtracted with the 4y. Now we look at the sign, and I don't see a negative, so it means 3x is positive. So I'm going to first move the 3x by doing the opposite of adding 3x, which is subtracting 3x. Now let's draw our line down the equal sign so we remember that we're dealing with two sides of an equation. So I'm going to start with saying minus 3x from both sides. Now, I notice this doesn't have an x in it, so I'm not going to put it under the 7. I'm going to put it just off to the side because I don't want to think these are like each other. This is a constant term. This is a variable term. Here is an x. Here is not an x. These cross out, and we'll write what's left over. Negative 4y equals, now this is an x and this is not, so I'm going to write 7 minus 3x. Now I need to get rid of the negative 4. It's next to the y, that means it's multiplied to the y. The opposite of multiply is divide. Divide by negative 4 on both sides of the equation. That'll cross out the negative 4, and I'll be left with y equals, now I could leave the 4 as the denominator for all of it, but it's better to divide into each term. So 7 divided by negative 4 makes negative 7/4. Negative 3x divided by negative 4 makes positive 3/4 x. I do have y by itself, but the preferred way to write the answer is with the variable term first, the one that has a letter, so positive 3/4 x minus 7/4. And now I have y by itself. Let's look at number 2. Solve for w. So now it's w that I want to see by itself. Let's draw our line down the equal sign. Let's remember PEMDAS. And let's remember that we start with add and subtract and work our way up. First I have subtracting y, so I'm going to say plus y on both sides. Is this a y? It is not, so I'm not going to put it under the 2z, I'm going to put it just off to the side. Crosses out the y's, and I'm left with w over 6 equals 2z plus y. I still have w with something else. W is not alone yet, so I keep going. This says divided by 6. So the opposite of divide is multiply. I'm going to now say times 6, and over here, putting parentheses, times 6. I put parentheses because I have more than one term. This gets rid of the 6, and now I'm left with w on this side equals, and now I will distribute the 6. 6 times 2z is 12z, plus 6 times y is 6y. I do have w by itself, but on the other side of the equation, I always want my variable terms to be alphabetical order, to be in alphabetical order. Y is supposed to come before z, so that's how we will write it. Y equals 6y plus 12z. Yay. Number 3, the circumference of a circle has the following formula. Solve for the radius r. So they're telling us to get r by itself. Here is the r in this equation. Let's draw our line at the equal sign, and again, let's remember PEMDAS and how we first start with add and subtract and move our way up. Do I see anything added and subtracting, any plus or minus signs? I do not. So the next thing I look for, multiply and divide. The 2 pi is multiplied to the r because they're next to the r. So I'm going to divide by 2 pi. Divide by 2 pi. That crosses out the 2 pi, and I'm left with r all by itself on the right side equals c divided by 2 pi on the left side. C is a letter that's not like this letter pi, and there's no number in the numerator. So now I'm going to use the symmetric property because I'm supposed to solve for r. I want r to be written first. R equals c divided by 2 pi. Or radius equals circumference divided by 2 pi. Number 4, solve for m. M is what I'm looking for now. Notice in this one, I have m in 2 places. So my first thought is I want to get the m's together. Let's draw a line at the equal sign. Remember PEMDAS. Starting with add and subtract and move our way up. Now, I always try to get what I'm solving for together first. This is 2m. This is like 1m. So if this is positive 1m added to the 5, I'm going to first subtract 1m from both sides. Gets rid of that m from that side, and I have m minus t, because 2m minus 1m is 1m, or just m, equals positive 5. Now, remember I want to get m by itself. It says minus t, so I'm going to do the opposite of subtract, which is add. I will say plus t. This is not a t, so I'm going to do it off to the side, plus t. T's go away. I'm left with m equals 5 plus t. Remember, the order in which we want everything else is letter or variable first, and then the constant term. So my final answer, m equals t plus 5. Number 5, solve for x. X is what I want by itself in this one. Let's draw the line at the equals to remember we have 2 sides and write PEMDAS. Start with add and subtract and work our way up. I see the x is multiplied to 6. That's not add or subtract. So we'll deal with the plus y and minus 2z. We can do either one first. Maybe we'll start with what's closer to x. If it says plus y, the opposite is minus y. Over here, this is not a y, so I'll write it off to the side. Cross those out. 6x, no more y's, minus 2z equals 4 minus y. I still want x by itself. I see minus 2z, so I will add 2z. Not z, not z, so write it off to the side, plus 2z. Cross those out, and I have 6x equals 4 minus y plus 2z. Finally, the x is still not by itself, but I only have one more step left. It says 6 times x. Opposite of multiply is divide. Divide by 6. Divide everything by 6. Cross out the 6's. X is left equals, I'm going to divide each term by 6. 4 divided by 6 minus y divided by 6. Remember, there's this invisible 1 in front of the y, so we're going to write that as 1/6 y plus 2 divided by 6, 2/6 z. Now, in addition to rearranging these terms, we can reduce some of these fractions. 4/6 simplifies. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 2 divides into both of those. So I can write this as 2/3. This does not simplify. And this one does simplify. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. I can write this one as plus 1/3 z. We can also use our calculator to do math_frac to help us reduce the fractions if needed. Let's now rearrange these terms. X equals, we put the variables first, negative 1/6 y plus 1/3 z, and then plus 2/3. There's our final answer. Variable terms go first in alphabetical order, and then the constant term. One more, number 6. The formula to find the angle measures of an isosceles triangle is shown. Here it is. Which equation can be used to find x? So this is another way of saying solve for x. Here's the x. We want the x by itself. Notice this is multiple choice. A, B, C, and D all have the x by itself. This is the type of question you'd see on a standardized test. If I want the x by itself, I'll draw my line at the equals and I'll remind myself of PEMDAS. Start with add and subtract and move up. Near the x, I'm multiplying by 2, but I'm adding y. So I'm going to start with the adding and do the opposite, which is subtract. Minus y, minus y. Cross those out. Oh, I just realized I put the minus y under the 180 when that doesn't have a y in it. So let's not put it under the 180. Let's put it just off to the side, minus y. Now what we have left over is 180 minus y equals 2x. This is 2 times x, so I'm going to say divided by 2, because opposite of multiply is divide. Divide everything by 2. Cross those out. Now, before I try to separate these, I do want to remember that I'm looking for the correct choice. So I want to see which one is what I have, and I see that they've used divide everything by 2. They did not split it up like we did in the other ones. So 180 minus y divided by 2, that's what I have when x is by itself. 180 minus y divided by 2. That's what this looks like. So that would mean A is the correct answer. Now what we're used to doing is dividing each of these terms. 180 gets divided by 2, and the y gets divided by 2. The 1y, so that's like 1/2 y, equals x, and then turning it around, x equals 180 divided by 2 minus 1/2 y. And then simplifying, x equals 180 divided by 2 is 90 minus 1/2 y. But see, if I keep going, I don't find the choices here. 90 I do have, but minus y instead of minus 1/2 y. So when we're given multiple choices, instead of continuing to go with what we normally do, we need to check the choices along the way. So I'm not going to continue solving because I have what they asked for at this step. I just have to turn it around so that x is first. Take a moment to write a short summary. Describe the steps you would take to solve a literal equation. See you in class.